So what do you think about the so far, how it was announced and everything?
You know what? It's been so ridiculous. It's such a joke now that people can't see it nearly 2 years in, that we've all been taken for mugs. Then sometimes I begin to think they deserve what's coming to them. And here we are, we're outside Parliament because they're going to change the laws to make it illegal for us to stand outside Parliament, and people don't seem to care. I've passed St Thomas's Hospital just down the way. They're queuing right across Westminster Bridge for their because Boris Johnson made a speech last night for 10 minutes saying about the Omicron, and they're petrified and they're queuing up out there in case they die of a It's never been isolated. So yeah, you know, it's been a long couple of years for all of us. And we've been out every day, every weekend. We're at schools during the week. We're in town centres at weekends, trying to wake the last few people up that we can wake up and get on our side.
And what do you think about the mandates that keep being introduced?
You know, the mandates are fantastic because they started off last year by telling us that the are useless, they don't do anything, don't bother. Right, so they made sure that everybody in the country knew that the were useless and not to bother. And then they made it illegal not to wear them on buses. So they're basically saying, we told you they don't work, but now we're taking the mick out of you. And now here we are, 18 months on, they're still taking the mick out of us. People are walking up and down the street, outside, wearing in case they catch the Omicron. It's just a joke, it's just a joke. But it wouldn't have been allowed to happen if the people didn't let it happen. You know, the people have to take responsibility for the fact that they're the ones queuing up for the booster, they're the ones wearing face masks, they're the ones not inviting their granny round for Christmas dinner. So people have to stand up and take responsibility for their own behaviour. Because we're doing that, we're all out here doing that. We're standing up for what we believe in, and it's about time that they woke up and stood up for what they should be believing in.
And how do you feel about the treatment that the Australians have suffered through at the moment?
It's amazing what's been allowed to happen in Australia. I can't help but think maybe it's a test bed for what's coming over here, or what they plan to bring on over here. But there's a lot less Australians, obviously only 24 million, and they seem to be getting away with murders. But the Australian public are beginning to stand up. People are beginning to wake up.
And how do you think about how Austria's only lifted up the lockdown for and left the lockdown?
Well, that's pretty much what the whole is going to be, effectively. You'll need to show your status to walk down the high street. It'll be a bit like Nazi Germany. They'll ask to see your papers, and if you can't produce your ID, you'll either get a fine or you'll get arrested on the spot. That's the kind of Nazi stuff that's coming to the UK, and it's coming to, you know, it's starting in Austria. They're talking about putting them in prison if they don't have their from February. These are dangerous times for everybody, but it's the young people that we're fighting for. It's the young people we're out here for. I'm old, I've had my life. I lived through the 70s and 80s. So I'm old, but it's my children and my grandchildren that I'm doing this for. And the children all around the world. We've got to fight for you guys. You guys are the future. And you don't want this as your future. You really don't.
And how do you feel about the of 5 to 11-year-olds that's now being considered?
It makes me so angry. I know it's coming. It's happened in other countries. And the minute that our governments say they're not going to do something, that means 100% that they are going to do it. So when they say on the news, oh, we have no plans to 5-year-olds, you know 100% that they plan to 5-year-olds. And then after the 5-year-olds, it'll be the 3-year-olds in nursery, and then the babies won't be allowed out of hospital until they've been and then got their ID number, which will become their biometric ID, and they'll have that for the rest of their lives. They'll be born into slavery and they'll die slaves. And that's the future that we've got to look forward to if we don't stand up now and fight.
Do you think that later on in life, children and teenagers will be traumatised by all of this?
Absolutely they will, absolutely. Children have an inherent fear. They can't help it. Children, they fear for their future. They fear that, you know, as they grow up, they see grandparents die. You know, it's quite traumatic for a child. And now they've got their own parents telling them to be scared. Be scared of a be scared if someone sneezes. Be scared if someone coughs in your classroom. Children don't need to spend their lives in fear. There's already enough fear for the children to deal with anyway. And now their parents and their teachers are telling them to be afraid of everything and cross the road if they see someone coughing. No one knows anyone who ever died. You know, that's the reality. In the UK, people only ever died with. So no one actually ever knew anyone who died. But they're still pushing it and they're still believing it. And it is the children. The children are suffering more than us.
And do you think that children later on in life will suffer with sensory deprivation from not seeing people's faces and smiling and not having human contact?
That's the frightening thing. Can you imagine that they'll accept that as commonplace? We were literally only just saying, they were being conditioned years ago with the Snapchat, with the face mask emoji, that you can put a picture of yourself up wearing a face mask. So children were doing that 2, 3, 4 years ago. And so when the face mask actually came in, they were already conditioned to accept it because they've seen all their friends with pictures on Snapchat with face masks on. So now they just accept it. So yeah, they won't be able to read someone's emotions like we can. We look at someone's face, we know whether they're happy, whether they're sad, whether they're angry. Children won't be able to do that in the future because all they'll see is their eyes and the rest of the expression is gone. So yeah, the whole mental health for the children has to be in question, you know, and these people across the road here have to be held accountable for that because we know they're working for a greater agenda, but they know what they're doing. Same as the police, same as the doctors and nurses that are doing this injection. So everybody needs to be held accountable for their actions during this pandemic.
Do you believe that some of it is perhaps sadism from the politician and the government against the people?
Yeah, I can't help that there is a satanic element to it. You know, these people, they laughed at us. We've seen it this week, you know, at their Christmas party. They were laughing about social distancing whilst we weren't allowed to have our relatives around for Christmas. So they are taking the mick out of us. They are sadists, they are satanic. They have no empathy for us. They don't care about us. All we are to them is a means of making more and more money. And a lot of these politicians have made a killing out of this pandemic with the face masks, with the ventilators, with the you know, they're laughing all the way to the bank, these guys. And in 4 years, or when their 4 years is up, they're going to retire off to the country with all their money. None of them have really been because they know it's not. You know, that's only for the peasants.
And do you think people should pay more attention to the yellow cards, the yellow card scheme?
Yellow card reporting system, yeah, absolutely. Yes, but the thing is with the yellow card reporting system is that's a very small percentage of the actual deaths and injuries caused by the. Now, what people should be taking notice of now is their own eyes. They're watching football only this Saturday, 2 days ago. A player playing for Manchester United had to stop and be taken off the pitch, clutching his chest, pointing to his chest so that everyone could see. 70,000 in the stadium and 1 million or so worldwide watching that game. The guy, a 28-year-old lad, having chest pains on a football pitch, one of the healthiest professions there is. And people are dying. Now people have got to see with their own eyes what's happening. They've got relatives dying weeks after of a heart attack or a stroke, and they're saying, oh, how unfortunate. They're not putting 2 and 2 together. And we've been banging on about it for a year now, but they won't see it. They refuse to see it. Even when it's put live in front of them on the television, they refuse to accept it.
And how do you think the protesters will succeed in the battle between the government and everything? How do you think that will succeed?
You know, I've been protesting now for a year. God, it's a long old year, and nothing's changed. We're not winning. You know, they don't take any notice of us protesters. We could be out here all day. They're still going to vote for what they're going to vote for. What I think we have to do is what we're doing a lot of is outreach. We're going to local towns. We're trying to wake up the people who have now realised that they've been lied to, realised that they've been manipulated and brainwashed and indoctrinated. And they're the people now, even though they've had one or we can still get them on side. And the ID, the biometric ID, only works if they get the numbers keep taking. So we have to get those numbers on our side, and then this lot, they crumble.
And what do you think about that are being introduced everywhere?
Well, that's what this whole agenda's been about. The was invented for the, and the is going to be your biometric ID for your bank account details, your criminal record, all your health. Every bit of your information will be linked to your biometric ID, and that'll either be, at the moment, it's part of your telephone on your app, or it'll be under your skin at some point. And that's the future that we've got to look forward to, and that's why they've rolled out the, and they intend to get that in place by 2030. Everyone left alive in 2030 will be microchipped.
Thank you.
My pleasure.